In this module, we will talk about again the types of fermentation on the base of water requirement in the medium. We know that water is very essential for the growth of any microorganism. So, on the base of the water requirement, fermentation process can be classified into three major types: solid state fermentation, submerged or liquid fermentation, and then the last, which we call as third type, that is surface culture or a jelly fermentations. Let's see what are these. As concerned the solid state fermentation, in solid state fermentation, the microorganisms grow on a moist solid with little or no free water, although the capillary water may be present. In this type of fermentation, mostly the fermentation media looks solid. Another physical condition of solid state fermentation that the media look porous. And then the example of this solid state fermentation we can see in mushroom cultivations, bread making, process of cocoa, and also in the manufacture of some traditional foods, that is miso, soya paste, soya sauce. And there are various different type of examples we can code here in solid state fermentation. Solid state fermentation in the literature is also known as Koji fermentation because a scientist named Koji have a detailed work on solid state fermentation. So the solid state fermentation you can find in literature by the name of Koji fermentation. You can see here that this is the solid state fermentation happened in the tray fermenters. As I already told you that solid state fermentation is mostly involved in food fermentation, as we can see here that wheat by Aspergillus species, soybean by Rhizopus species, and soybean also by Aspergillus species. In this diagram, you can see that how the solid state fermentation look. So the second type is submerged or a liquid fermentation. In this process, the microorganism implied growth in a submerged state within the fermentation medium. We can say that if the medium have the tendency to flow, excess of water is present in the medium. That state, that type of fermentation can be called as submerged, in which the microorganism grow while you can see that sinking in the water in the medium. So the submerged fermentation may use a dissolved substrate, that is sugar solutions, or a solid substrate suspended in a large amount of water to form a slurry. In other form, we can say that a colloidal solution can also be called as submerged fermentation. In this slide, you can see this the condition of this, in which you can see that the biomass is synced, and this kind of when organism grow in a liquid medium in a vigorously aerated and agitated conditions. So such kind of fermentation can be used in pickling process, brewing process, and production of wine and soya sauce. So the third type of this fermentation type is surface culture or jelly fermentation. As you know that jelly appearance, when the water is present not in a sufficient amount, only the capillary space among the media is filled with that. So it refers to those fermentation in which the microorganism is utilized to grow on a surface of the medium. When the medium is a jelly, and then the microorganisms or other organisms only grow on a surface. Very suitable example is if you grow any organism on an agar plate. So that when you solidify the agar, that major appearance is the jelly-like. So, the surface culture at the jelly fermentation, the organism is allowed to grow on the surface of the liquid medium without agitation. After an appropriate incubation period, the culture filtrate is separated from the cell mass and is processed to recover the desirable product. The common example, we can say that citric acid is commonly produced by this type of fermentation, in which the mycelia remain floating on the medium. So, in this slide, you can see the state of surface culture. You can easily see here that how the mycelia grow on the surface. So, these are the three types of a fermentation on the base of the water content in the medium: solid state fermentation, submerged fermentation, or surface culture fermentation.